every now and then there's a segment on the podcast that's one of those that I've been waiting so long to talk about that I can't wait. These are the types of segments where I have to rein myself in because I want it to be organized. I don't want it to just be me rambling about things that I enjoy that you may not know about. This will be filled with lots of laughter. Basically, every time I say the name of the show, I will laugh. Lancelot Link Secret Chimp is a real show that came out in 1970. It is not some fever dream that I am inventing from my writer's mind. But if this show is from 1970, which was 7 years before I was born, why do I have such an affinity for it, and why does it speak to my childhood so much? A lot of it is luck. I started watching Nick at Night when it came out in the mid-1980s. I became very familiar with a lot of TV shows from the 50s and 60s, like Car 54, Where Are You?, The Donna Reed Show, Mr. Ed, My Three Sons, Laugh-In. And it was during this time, probably in the late 80s, I had to be 11 years old, maybe, that a TV show came on that spoke to me as a child. It's a show where every actor in it was a chimp. There were no humans. And these chimps would talk. They were involved in intricate plots. So talking chimps that did funny things, that really spoke to me. The name of the show was Lancelot Link Secret Chimp. I can't keep saying that name without giving you some of the intro. We've got to start with the intro song.
Lancelot Link Secret Chimp stands for justice, he has no fear. He's the agent to call when trouble is near. Lance Link, you gotta come through. Everybody is counting on you.
I played that song and the video that goes along with it for my sister Ashley the other day, and she was just cracking up laughing. It's a show that is very much a sign of its times in the early 1970s. But it's also one of those, how in the world did this show ever get made type of shows. Lancelot Link Secret Chimp would be a show that you would probably find on my Blink and You'll Miss It retro segments if I had not watched it myself as a kid. The show was on Saturday mornings when it first came out. It combined Cold War spy spoofing like James Bond with a cast, like I said, it was entirely trained chimpanzees. The show combined things like Get Smart, The Man from U.N.C.L.E., The Monkees, and like I said, James Bond, to create one of the weirdest, trippiest shows you'll ever find. You could do animated shows where all of the characters are chimps and they do the same exact stuff they do on Lancelot Link, and it wouldn't make the same impact, as actual chimps doing it. The show itself premiered on ABC on September 12, 1970. And when I say blink and you'll miss it, the last episode of the show was January 2nd, 1971. Barely 4 months it was on the air in original content. It was a total of 17 episodes, 34 segments, because usually the plots of the show would be the beginning and end, and then in the middle they broke it up with these little short skits called Chimpies, which we'll get into. The idea for this insanity of a TV show came from Stan Burns and Mike Marmer. They were comedy writers who had worked on the show Get Smart. The plot of the show centers around the titular character, Lancelot Link. He's an undercover secret agent chimp working for the company Ape Agency to Prevent Evil, and his nemesis is called Chump, Criminal Headquarters for Underworld Master Plan. Obviously, they are the evil organization bent on world destruction. The entire Lancelot Link show is set up as kind of the spy versus spy, where the good spies try to thwart the evil spies. The charm and the absurdity of Lancelot Link's Secret Chimp came from the dedication to the gimmick of real chimps dressed in real clothes, lip-syncing to human dialogue. The idea was that the chimps were trained to do things on the show. Walking upright was a challenge, opening doors, opening drawers, picking up a telephone. And when they would talk, or at least open their mouths, the voice actors would have to mimic the mouth movements. So if you had one of the chimps open their mouth for a long time, the voice actor would have to make that word extend to match it. So who were the characters on the show? Lancelot Link was voiced by a man named Dayton Allen. He sounds very much like Humphrey Bogart, who was an actor in the 30s, 40s, 50s, for those of you that don't know film history.
What a dumb mask. One eye hole and one ear hole. I got a good mind to return this to the store and get my money back.
Never mind. Put your skis on.
He typically wore a trench coat. He had a bunch of one-liners. He would get dressed up in different costumes to thwart the villains. A fun little note about Lancelot Link. The chimp that played him was named Tonga. And all of the other chimps on the show, they got to train to actually move their mouths like they were talking. Lancelot Link, or Tonga, he would not speak, so they had to give him gum to chew. So if you watch the show, and I really recommend you watch at least one episode, in all of them, that's where Lancelot Link doesn't talk. You can see he's chewing gum. That's how it was like Mr. Ed the horse, putting peanut butter under his gums to get his mouth to move. Lancelot Link's partner and love interest is named Mata Hari.
Lance, you got him on backwards.
There's a good reason why I got him on this way.
What reason?
Well, in case I'm following anyone, they'll really think they're following me.
Huh?
Never mind.
It is said that this chimp, who was really named Debbie, was the smartest of all the chimps on the show. My inside info that I'm going to sprinkle in here, when I was binge watching some of the Lancelot Link episodes for the show, what a hard job. Anyway, when I was binge watching Lancelot Link, I found a short documentary, probably like 20-ish minutes long, with Stan Burns and Mike Marmer, I believe from the late 1990s, where they talked about behind-the-scenes stuff with the show. There's one story in particular that I'm going to share near the end because I think the clip will do more justice to it. But they're the ones in the documentary that talk about training the chimps and how basic things like walking upright required a lot of effort. That and getting them to wear clothes and not rip them off. Other main characters on the show was Commander Darwin, who was the boss of Ape. The leader of Chump was Baron Von Butcher. There was the Duchess and Dragon Lady and the henchman Credo. All of them had their own voices, their own personalities. So you're looking at shows that could have more than a dozen trained chimps in them. They had chimps driving cars, skiing, having to drink water and eat food. But as a kid in the late 80s, when I saw this, it was one of the funniest things, but also amazing to me. It really spoke to that age group. I mentioned a few minutes ago that there were 2 segments of each episode of Lancelot Link, and in the middle there was a little break. Sometimes it was things called chimpies, which could be things like dancing or monkey magicians. They had an Ed Sullivan imitator that was Ed Simeon.
I'm your host, Ed Simeon, and tonight we have a really big show for you.
The highlight of the Chimpies breaks was the Evolution Revolution Band, which is all chimps, obviously. It was like the house band, and they would break in and there'd be music. All the chimps, it was led by Lancelot Link. He played guitar. They had a chimp playing drums, one playing keyboard.
Lancelot Link and the Evolution Revolution!
These little music videos were inspired by the Monkees or the Archies, and were actually some catchy tunes. So some of these tracks from the show were actually released as a real album under the name Lancelot Link and the Evolution Revolution. I just did a quick deep dive trying to find any of these albums for sale. You can find a few, but they're all over $100 because they're rare. In a funny little note, in that documentary that I've been referencing, at the end, Stan Burns and Mike Marmer, they are each gifted a copy of what I think is a vinyl album, but it's a hard rock or punk band covering one of the Evolution Revolution songs. And it's funny, they play a clip of the song, but you can see that these guys are not that interested in getting this vinyl album. I'm assuming it went like right in their attic. The songs by the Evolution Revolution band were written by Steve Hoffman and Bob Eminger, with Eminger doing a lot of low-budget sci-fi scores in the later 70s, early 80s. When you watch one of these episodes, you've got to keep in mind that imagine trying to train chimps to do the things that they're doing in this show. Like I said, there's episodes where Lancelot Link is supposed to be driving a car, or he's carrying a tray with food on it, or even the easiest thing like wearing clothes, because it was said in the documentary that they would just rip their clothes off. Or there'd be times where, just imagine, you get a lot of male chimps and female chimps in the same area at the same time. What do you think they were doing? Yeah, so in the documentary, they talked about a lot of sex between the chimps. Not graphic or anything, but I couldn't think of a better way to say it. Anyway, to cut that off at the pass, or at least they thought they did, they castrated all the male chimps. Which, if you don't know what that is, look it up on your own. It's like getting your dog fixed. The problem was it did not fix the problem. The chimps didn't care. Despite all of these issues, bribing the chimps to actually do the movements, when you watch the show, it comes off like a live-action cartoon. It was just adult enough that I would think that older people could watch, but the mix of animal antics, slapstick comedy, the music, it was perfect for Saturday mornings. Obviously, the show must have had mixed reviews because it only lasted 17 episodes. Kids loved it. Parents and critics saw it as silly or overly gimmicky. There was loads of merchandise. I mentioned the album. There was lunch boxes. There's comic books. They have the full show on DVD. You can watch the show on Amazon Prime, but you can also watch all the episodes on YouTube. So we're talking almost 15, 20 years after the show went off the air is when I saw it. And I can't be the only one from my age group that saw Lancelot Link and immediately thought, oh my God, this show is great. Every time I say the name or hear the theme song or see an episode, it makes me think of me and my sister Kate watching the show and just laughing at monkeys doing things. So if you're wondering a reason why Lancelot Link perhaps didn't last more than one season, there's a story from that documentary that I mentioned earlier with creators Stan Burns and Mike Marmer. It's about the chimp that played Lancelot Link, real name Tonga. So for the show, they're all animals, so they had to be checked out by the vet. And I guess Tonga the chimp was not a big fan of the vet probing him and doing all this stuff, and he was pretty upset. The creators of the show kind of told the vet he's not going to forget this, just so you know. I don't know if that was a threat or to make the vet aware to steer clear of Tonga. At a later date, the vet was back. Tonga the chimp saw him and went right after him and knocked him down and started biting him on the back. While this was going on, the ABC network execs had shown up to the set. So they're getting out of their car and they look up and there's this chimp attacking the vet. When I heard that story, all I could think of was them seeing this attack going on and then hearing the Lancelot Link music playing. It's like insanity. I'm not saying that's why the show didn't last longer, but if you were paying money producing this show and the star of the show was like killing someone else there when you showed up, what would you do? The vet was all right. I shouldn't say killing him. He did bite a chunk out of his back, though. That's the stuff that is not on the DVD extras if you buy the box set. There you go. Lancelot Link Secret Chimp with some music and clips sprinkled in. If you have never heard of or seen this show, go watch at least one episode. Maybe you'll think it's dumb and you'll never watch it again. Maybe you'll binge all 17 episodes. Maybe you and your band will cover the songs that the Evolution Revolution band did. So thank you for taking that trip down memory lane with me. Oh man, it was definitely worth it.
For justice, he has no fear. He's the agent to call when trouble is near.